The Saints finally put together a performance that I think a lot of us fans can be proud about. Derek Carr looked like a pretty good quarterback today, and Rashid Shaheed stepped up yet again. Let's talk about that all here on the Straight Up Saints podcast.
You're listening to the Straight Up Saints podcast.
What is up, Who Dat Nation? Welcome back inside another edition of the Straight Up Saints podcast. I'm your host, Chris Vogel, and as always, this program is brought to you by Scott Fickner, injury lawyers. You've been injured in any kind of accident, car, truck, 18-wheeler, or hurt offshore. Scott Fickner handles all. You give him a call at 504-500-1111 for a free consultation. They'll always fight for the win. The Saints finally looked good offensively, put up 38 points in a victory over the Colts, and there's so much good to talk about, but I'm going to start off with the quarterback first, and we're going to kind of trickle everything down from there. So let's start off with Derek Carr. I think what's fair is fair. I think when we've been ripping in the last couple of weeks, especially last Thursday against Jacksonville, it was all warranted, right? Not playing up to your contract, not being a good leader, which is kind of the minimum that you expect from a quarterback like him. If you're not going to play well, you want him to be accountable. You want him to be there and not scream at his guys. And that was just unfortunate to see. And you really felt like, man, the wheels are about to fall off this car. Pun intended, I guess, in this case. And that wasn't the case today. And I think for the first time throughout Derek Carr's tenure, I actually sat there and said, you know what? He looked like a damn good quarterback today. Because even though the Saints won their first two games of the year, offense didn't look good. And even when they beat the Patriots, it didn't look like this to me. That reminded me more so of the Patriots just stunk, Saints took advantage. This was like, man, the offense finally looked like an offense in 2023, moving the ball down the field, getting a little bit creative. They could have put even more points up on the board had Chris Olave not dropped a touchdown, hit him right in the head pretty much. So this offense could have put 40 plus today. And I think for Derek, there's two things I like that he did. A, you didn't see any of that whining around, bitching at his teammates, none of that. That's a positive. Two, though, use the middle of the field. Finally did it. And, everyone kept going, well, is it Pete that doesn't like the middle of the field? Clearly, it's not just Pete. The quarterback probably didn't like using the middle of the field either for them not to early in the season. But they decided to do that today, and it paid dividends. And going back to the first 2 weeks, Saints got to get a crucial first down to kind of make sure that Indianapolis stays out of this. And they call up that special, which is pretty much throw it deep to Rashid Shaheed and hope he comes down with it. And every single time his number's called, all he does is make plays. So kudos to Derek Carr, 310 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Now, he did have the fumble, which is a little bit of held the ball a little bit, but he stepped up in the pocket. And as he was stepping up in the pocket, I thought both McCoy and Garcia did a terrible job of keeping it protected. And that's what happened. So a little bit on both if you want to blame people in that regard. But again, no picks, only 8 incompletions. Derek Carr played great today. And I don't know if this is going to continue. I don't know if this is going to be the, I guess, status quo moving forward. And I probably don't expect it to be. And we could talk about that later on. Can the Saints sustain this? Is this just a fluke? But I think it's important when we get all strung up and frustrated when the Saints play terribly. When they play well like they did today, I think it's important for us Saints fans to kind of sit back, enjoy, relax, and talk about the good, because there was a lot of good from this game that is worth talking about, and it all starts with Derek Carr. Now, I want to get into the second thing that I want to talk about this offense, and it's about finding an identity. And I don't know if Carr is going to be great every single game, and honestly, he probably will not be great every single game, and I don't know if he'll be okay every single game. But what I can say about today that I think is something the Saints can follow moving forward is being a football team that wants to play that smash mouth style of football. And you saw it today. 4 different players on the Saints got at least 3 carries. You love to see that. Taysom Hill, 9 carries for 63 yards and 2 touchdowns. Alvin Kamara, 17 carries for 59 yards and a touchdown. Jamal Williams, 6 carries for 30 yards. Kendra Miller, 3 carries for 10 yards. You're going to win a lot of football games in this league if you could play good defense, avoid sloppy penalties, and run the football at that type of clip, which the Saints did today. And for me, I think this is sustainable. I might not think that Derek Carr, 300 plus yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, is sustainable every single week. But running the football well with Taysom Hill, using Alvin the way you used him today, those are things you can do because we've seen it so many times before. I know the Saints are really scared sometimes about using Taysom Hill too much. But man, when they run the ball with him like 7 times or more, they rarely lose. And when he has over 50 rushing yards, I don't know if they've ever lost a game when he does that. So using Taysom in this variety, perfect. It helps Alvin. It takes some carries off of his workload, which is great. And you know what? I've been a little critical of Jamal Williams this year when he's been healthy, but I got to give Jamal Williams credit today. 6 carries for 30 yards, showed a little bit of shiftiness to his game. I thought Jamal looked good too. So I think the Saints did things here today, running the football, that they can absolutely replicate in weeks forward against the Bears next week, against the Vikings in 2 weeks. This is going to help. And I think another thing for them that has really helped and kind of maybe unlocked a certain level of their offense, we know they struggle in the red zone. I know you're paying Derek Carr $40 million, but that doesn't mean you have to keep him in on the red zone. If you want to just go QB power, put Colin Saunders in as the lead blocker and let them run the football into the end zone, who gives a shit? Because if Derek says the goal is to win games and he has to stand on that and his actions have to back it up, and I saw today pretty good body language from everyone on the sidelines, and when you give Colin Saunders as the lead blocker to Taysom, how the hell are you going to stop that? It's hard to stop Taysom Hill when Adam Prentice was the lead blocker. Now you're going to have a 300-plus pound defensive tackle leading the way. I don't know how you stop that. So I thought the Saints did things today that are sustainable. It's up to the OC to call it, and it's up to guys to execute. But I didn't think there were a lot of things today that I was like, oh, it was an anomaly. No, using the middle of the field, not an anomaly. You got guys that can do it. Using Taysom Hill, you know what he brings to the table. Rashid Shaheed, that guy, every time his number is called, he steps up. So yes, we want to see the Saints continue to do this, because if they don't continue to do this, then that's why we have these conversations about you can't sustain anything under Dennis Allen. He's not consistent. And all those complaints are absolutely warranted if you go back into next week and you play terribly again. But I do think that they could pull some of this back and do this against the Bears next week. But I don't want to get too far into that. I want to talk about a couple of observations from today's game. And here were some. I'll go with 3. One of them stands out to everyone. The other 2, maybe not as much, but they are important. The first thing I'm going to go with, and this is a preference thing, not a fact. This is just preference. I like the Saints secondary better with Jordan Howden in over Marcus May. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe it's not fair of me to say that. But I think when Jordan Howden's played this year, I'm thinking of the Patriots game. I'm thinking of today's game. I think he's played pretty well. And I think for him, playing him now, getting him more reps, and he doesn't really need a ton of reps because this is a guy at Minnesota who played so many games during his career there. I think he's getting better. I think he's getting comfortable. He's putting himself in position to make some big plays. And yeah, look, this wasn't a great day for the Saints defense. They got gashed to a certain degree. Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss, they had some big plays. I know Minshew had some big plays, also some terrible ones too that he got bailed out on. But I thought Jordan Howden looked really good. And honestly, it's not Marcus May's fault that he got sick, obviously, and he had an illness, and that's why he wasn't playing today. But if the Saints want to roll with Howden for a little bit, I'm cool with it. I actually think that he should be playing, and it would make me feel even better about this rookie class if he can be in there. The second observation, Juwan Johnson came back today, and I know that a lot of us, including myself, want to see him make some big plays in the passing game, want to see him have that kind of breakout year that we all think he can have, just like he did last year. And it didn't happen today. 1 catch for 5 yards. But I'll tell you what Juwan Johnson does for the Saints. He helps their run game because you put him in there, and there is that a little bit element of an unknown where the Saints can throw it with Juwan in there, but they can also run it with him because he's gotten better and better each year as a blocker. And I saw today, I thought that was apparent with him. And I don't think it's coincidence that the Saints ran the ball a little bit better too with having Juwan there. I think Juwan helps that in terms of the run game, gives you a little bit more diversity. So I thought that was nice to see Juwan Johnson back in the fold. Definitely glad about that. Now, the third thing, and this is the most obvious one, Rashid Shaheed needs more touches because this guy, when his number is called and you need him to make a big play every single time, he does it. 3 catches for 153 yards and a touchdown. I mean, first off, 50 yards per reception is just absolutely bonkers. But the fact is he's been doing it all year. And we keep saying it. He could get more touches. He could get more carries, whether it's a screen, whether it's an end around, whatever it may be. Get him the ball more. He deserves more opportunities because he doesn't mess up when the ball comes his way. So I definitely like what Rashid Shaheed did there. And I got to give him some props. So I'm going to get into what you guys have to say here. And we're going to go from there. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, as always, put them in the chat. And we'll go there. We're going to start off with a super chat from Ed. Ed, thank you so much for the support. Ed says, Alvin Kamara is a special dude, man. I've enjoyed watching him since Tennessee, and he's still a bad man. He absolutely is. I thought Alvin, once again, was really productive for the Saints today. And you got it in 2 varieties, right? You got it in the 4 catches for 51 yards and a touchdown, which, thank you for bringing that Texas route concept back and letting him use it. Love to see Alvin in space like that over the middle of the field. Helps the red zone offense. Also helps your quarterback. Makes his life a lot easier if you get Alvin the ball in that spot. And then even running the ball. Look, 17 carries or whatever it was for 59 yards. Is that ideal? No. In terms of yards per carry, but was he running tough in between the tackles? Absolutely. And Alvin's been that guy all season. And I think that for New Orleans, if they didn't have him there, all right, maybe we could start talking about whether or not the locker room starts to implode. But Alvin's done a great job on and off the field this year. Got a comment here from Gavin, said the Saints defense looked off. I said this last week, I believe. I don't remember if it was last week or a couple days ago. I said, even though the Saints defense has Gardner Minshew's number, the Colts offense put up 30 plus points on the Browns defense. So that kind of made me a little concerned about the Saints coming into this game and why I was like, man, the offense better step up because there's a good chance their defense can get gashed, and their defense did get gashed today. I thought the second half adjustments were really good for the Saints. Obviously when you give up 20 in the first half and only 7 in the second half, Dennis Allen's second half adjustments are really good. I think the Saints could have minimized that though. The second half touchdown they gave up. You want to make sure the off-script plays, the broken plays, the Saints are taking advantage of. I don't think they did a good job of that today defensively. That'd be one of the few knocks I've had on today's performance. And obviously, the run defense wasn't great, but that Colts run game is also just demolishing people right now. So I can understand why people feel that way. Defense looking off, totally a fair concern for people to make. I totally get it. But yeah, we'll see what happens moving forward. But this was a good week for New Orleans. They win, Bucs lose, Falcons lose, and as bad as this season's been, they're tied for first in the division because the NFC South is bad yet again. Alex says, we say it all the time, but AK is so special, man. Happy that they actually ran QB power with Taysom more than twice, too. Can't struggle to score in the red zone if you score outside of it. Well, first off, totally agree with that, of course, and that was a big help for the Saints today. But I think in the red zone, running the football is something they just don't do enough sometimes. They almost get into the red zone and just everything that worked to get there, they throw it out and they start running fade concepts, and it's not working for this team. So they go to the run. I love the delayed handoff that they had to Alvin. That was a great design right there. And that went against everything I like about the Saints. I don't like when they run it on 2nd and 10. I don't like when they run it when Lynn Bowden's in there because it gives away that it's a run. But it worked on that play. And I like the design to give it a delay. Don't give a straight handoff to him. Give a little delay. Let the defense think about it. And then using Taysom in the red zone, I don't care if it offends people. I don't care if it's aesthetically pleasing football. Who gives a fuck? The Saints are scoring touchdowns when Taysom Hill's running in the red zone. So I agree with you. QB power, it's why we made the shirts for Boo Crew with the death taxes and QB power. It works every time you need it to work. And today the Saints did a good job of not straying away from that. When they needed to do it, they said, screw it, let's call it. Cooler Beat says, Shaheed's stats are unreal. They are. 3 for 153 and a touchdown is just out of this world. But I want him to get more usage. I want him to get a little bit more usage, Rory says, first game that was enjoyable to watch this year. That was the offense we expected before the season started. Let's hope it continues. And honestly, I don't even know if the Saints putting up 38, that's not sustainable, obviously. But there's too much talent for them to struggle and have 17 or 13 or 9 like the Bucs game. There's no reason why they can't put up 24 a game minimum. You got a real good running back in Alvin. You have Mike. You have Shaheed. I know there's still problems with Olave, and we could talk about that if someone brings it up. We could gladly go into it. But I think he'll turn it around at some point. I feel like he's going to turn it around at some point. So you still have him there. You got Taysom. You got Kendre and Jamal, who are very serviceable running backs. Jawan's back in the fold. Foster Moreau's still there. There's weapons here. And it's on Derek to move the ball well. It's on Pete to call a consistent game plan. But we've now seen twice this season when both are aligned. Derek taking care of the football, Pete calling good plays. The Saints put up 30-plus points, and they don't lose those games. So they just got to be consistent. And I don't know if they will, but they got to be consistent about it because the talent is there. There's no doubt about it. Jack says, a win is a win. Enjoy the day and the game. We have gone 1-4 the last 5 weeks before this. The Pete, DA, and Carr discussion can cease for today. Shaheed deep ball needs to be ran more often. Yeah, and I'm going to say this. Look, we always do a live show on Monday mornings, and maybe tomorrow morning we can talk about what the Saints still have to fix and whether or not I trust them. Because in reality, guys, no, one win does not change my trust level in a guy like Dennis Allen, who is now 19-42 as a coach. But you know what? Part of this is being a fan. And I think if you watch every game with a miserable mindset and you're so focused on wins and losses and certain agendas and getting people fired and this and that, then you're not going to be able to enjoy certain things. And if you can't enjoy today's Saints game, hate to break it to you, there's not a single game you're going to enjoy this year. Then Because if you don't enjoy watching them put up 38 points and watching them actually air out the football and having good plays and Alvin doing his thing and Mike doing his thing and Taysom doing his thing, when are you going to enjoy it this season? That would be my question for those people. So I agree with you, Jack. That is a great point. Alex says, love the aggressive play calling with the lead in the second half. A nice change from just playing not to lose. Yeah, I saw a lot of people talking about, they got too cute on the play where Shaheed and the DB were tangled up and it was initially called an interception and then they changed it back to a catch because Ty goes to receiver. We've been told this for years now, ever since the replacement refs. And a lot of people were like, oh, you got too cute. And I was one of the few people who didn't say anything because I actually liked that they were aggressive. Maybe you don't want Taysom throwing the deep ball. Fine, I'm okay with that complaint. But I like that the Saints weren't up the way they were and said, let's just run out the clock or try and milk the clock because we've seen them go with that prevent style before and it's prevented them from winning. So I'm glad that they had their foot on the gas there. Alex says he might be wide receiver 1 by the end of the season. I don't agree with that, but I do think that Shaheed is getting better and better. I don't think he'll be wide receiver 1 because I think there's a certain element of being like a dominant possession receiver that you're going to need with some wide receiver 1 sometimes. Now, maybe Tyreek Hill's like the exception to the rule, but when I think of Mike in his prime or like Devontae or even Cooper Kupp or Justin Jefferson, that's what I kind of think of. But we'll see. I think for Rashid Shaheed, he's getting better and better. There's no doubt about it. But I want to see what this team can do with Olave maybe moving forward if he can get back on track. Because I still think like if you're going to pick someone to eventually get there, I still think this kid can do it. He's just in his head right now. And you see it when you're dropping open touchdowns. That's a mental thing. There's nothing physically wrong. I think it's a mental thing right now with him. SM says, I think armchair quarterback should just be quiet and let the process of a brand new quarterback and a brand new team work itself out. I'm going to disagree for the sake of if we get rid of that, then what's the point, right? If there's no Monday morning overreactions, if there's no armchair quarterbacks, if there's no, people being reactionary instead of letting shit marinate, then what's the point, right? I think it's part fun. I also think it's okay to critique what Derek Carr did wrong the first 7 weeks of the season because there was a lot wrong. But I think it would be, the way I see it is, it's okay to critique, but just make sure when the good happens, you bring it up. Like I said today, if I were to give a player the game, I would give it to Derek Carr. I thought Derek Carr was that good today. Now, was he that bad a couple weeks before? Sure, but he was that good today. So I think it's about having a balance. I don't think there's anything wrong with the armchair quarterback, complaining about certain things, pointing out certain flaws, but just be sure when you give that energy to the bad, when the good happens, reciprocate that same energy. That's the way I view it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Ed with another super chat. Thank you, Ed, for the support. Says, we talk shit about Carr, but on 2 big third downs this season, he's made great throws on go routes to Shaheed, tight ends, and today. He actually had one against the Panthers too, so I'll give him 3. And that is why prior to the last couple of weeks, when the Saints weren't scoring a lot, but they were winning games, I was like, this is why I don't want to hear the Andy Dalton discourse because Dalton wouldn't make that throw. Well, when you're finally scoring points and you make that throw, then it definitely helps our case in the fact that the Saints upgraded a quarterback. Obviously, you want to see it a little bit more. But when the game's on the line, so far, he's been pretty good this year. Even take the Jags game, right? The ball hits Foster Moreau in the hands. Now, Derek didn't do a lot of good in that Jacksonville game, but when the game's on the line, you got to get a touchdown to tie it. He's been good in pressure situations this year. It's everything else that hasn't been great. Today was the example where everything worked, and obviously I'm really happy about that. Super chat from Carl Marky Marks. Thank you for the support, man. Says, Carr did his job. Pete used common sense. O-line dug deep to help this run. Glad they haven't quit, but I hate how this keeps DA alive. Penalties are still our worst enemy. Still an undisciplined team. Yeah, I agree. And that's why before, when I was saying I won't get into it too much today about whether or not this changes my trust in the Saints, the reason I still think the Saints are a similar team to what we've seen the last year and a half is the Dennis Allen flaws are still all over this football team. 8 penalties for 73 yards is far too many. Stupid penalties, too. On one of their last drives of the game, it was 2nd and 4. They had back-to-back false starts. All of a sudden, it's 2nd and 14. If Derek doesn't make that throw to Rashid Shaheed, all of a sudden you're starting to wonder about whether or not the Colts go down the field and tie the game. So the Saints have to get better, and I don't know if they will in terms of the penalty yardage. It's a legit concern in my opinion, and I'm not pleased about that. I really think they have to get better, and I think that it won't happen, though, because that is who Dennis Allen is in terms of coach. He's always had sloppy football teams. You go back to Oakland, they weren't good with penalties. Even earlier today, the field goal that the Colts go for when you're lining up over the center, and that ends up being a penalty, the Colts end up scoring a touchdown after. Stupid penalties. Did it cost them at the end of the day? No, but against other teams, that could become costly, and you obviously don't want that to happen. Sergio says, thoughts on Marshawn's play this season? I think Marshawn started the season great, and then kind of had a little bit of a tail off, then picked it up against Jacksonville by locking up Calvin Ridley, and then I thought he was pretty good today, pretty physical today. Didn't see any glaring problems with Marshawn. I think Marshawn's been good. I think Marshawn's biggest weakness, though, is that it isn't always week-to-week dominance with him. It's sometimes inconsistent. But I thought that today, more good than bad, should have had a pick at the end, which would have given him, I think, his third career pick against Gardner Minshew. But, yeah, and I thought the corners tackled really well today. Him and Paulson Debo were bringing the wood, laying the wood there. So I thought that was a good sign for them. Again, the Saints' biggest problem defensively today was the run game wasn't really stopping enough. But, again, second half was good. Marshawn was okay. Thank you for the super chat, though. Sergio, I greatly appreciate the support, man. Going to keep it going here. Got more comments in the chat to get to. What do we have here? We'll go from Carl says, well, the coaching staff actually looked like a coaching staff. State of execution has been put on hold. That is very true. Brian says, finally, we have an offense worth watching. This was definitely the most fun I've had watching a Saints offense in maybe 2 years, possibly. DJ says, great win. Offense looked explosive. Defense made plays when they needed to. Now we have to stack wins moving forward. Absolutely. And the schedule's going to open up a little bit for them. I could discuss in a little bit. Easy says, can't be too mad today. There's still some things. Carr Olave deep has to get better. Shorts have to be better and still need more play action. Yeah, again, it is. You take it in doses when you're going to complain about a game like today. Like what you said, I think those are fair critiques without being too over critical in this situation. Because like we said, you obviously want to focus on the good and talk about what this team can be and what they have possibly shown. But you want to see more consistency from the Saints, and I think it might get there. Easy says, we get the Bears with maybe no Fields and Vikings with maybe no Cousins. Got to take care of business. Yep, and that is the scheduling break I was talking about. Injuries suck. The report probably come out soon. I think Kirk Cousins probably suffered an Achilles injury. It hasn't been confirmed yet. I hope to God he didn't, though. I am in the rare minority of people who really like watching Kirk Cousins play football. I think he's a really, really good pocket passer. But Saints might get Bears with no Fields, Vikings with no Kirk Cousins. You want to be taken serious? Win those 2 games. Get yourself to 6-4. Then you're going to look like a playoff team in my eyes. But you got to win those 2 games. And we'll talk about those as those get closer, no doubt about it. But that is the scheduling break. We talk about scheduling breaks for a lot of teams. Saints have got a lot on this year. Now they got to take advantage. Ed says 511 yards and 38 points. I have nothing to say on the offensive side of the ball. I need consistency. Totally agree. I like what I've seen today, and I didn't do too much of anything that couldn't be kept up. It looks like they finally started hitting on what they've been trying to do all season. Yep. And they ran the ball well, which I think they can do consistently moving forward. I think that they have enough weapons in the run game to diversify it and just be creative. And I think today they did a good job with that. And a lot of it starts with Taysom Hill, but also obviously using Alvin. And if Jamal runs the way he ran today, that's a great sign for them. I don't expect 38 points every game, but to be efficient from here on out should be the standard. Look at the rest of the schedule. Totally agree. Defense couldn't catch anything but that bug, LOL, but they stepped up the second half. They did. And the one thing I always give credit to DA, man, DA's second half defensive adjustments since like 2017 have been pristine, and they continue to be that way. Red T says, Taysom won us the game. I don't care. I'm cool with you saying that. Taysom was excellent today. Taysom's been excellent all season, if we're being honest. He's a damn good football player. I don't care what any of all these people complain about his contract, about his position. I do not care. Taysom Hill is a really, really, really good football player, and that's all that matters to me. Gavin says, I thought Foskey looked decent in his limited time. I agree. Foskey was about a second away from making a game-changing play. So, again, Foskey making plays. We've seen plays from Brzee this year. We've seen some plays from Kendra Miller. Saw some plays from Howden today. There's been spurts of good things from this rookie class. Now it's all about getting more consistency. Red T says, the fact that they started taking Carr out in the red zone directly led to a win. It helps. Like I said, ego's got to be checked at the door because the goal was to win. And Derek still played really well today. You just if you're going to score in the red zone, you need Taysom in there. Take Derek out. Like, the name of the game is to win. It's not to massage people's egos. And I'm not knocking Derek Carr. I thought Derek Carr did a great job today. The emotion was great. The leadership was good. Olave drops a touchdown pass. Next drive, guess who catches the ball in the next play? Very next play. Olave. I love shit like that. So I think New Orleans is finding a recipe. Can you just continue to call it, though? That's all we're asking. hoping we got some A.T. Perry action today. Hopefully we can mix him in more this season. Maybe. Right now they don't need to, though. They still have 3 damn good receivers. Knock on wood that these guys continue to stay healthy. But the weapons are there in the passing game, and A.T. Perry's time will probably come at some point. But if it's not right now, it's okay. Easy says we've lost once with Taysom having 7 carries. Yeah, there you go. I mean, Taysom has done nothing but shine when he gets his opportunities, and today was a really good example of that. Ed says, nah, man, Taysom needs 12 touches a game. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with Taysom getting 12 touches a game. I mean, Taysom's balling out this year, and I think they did a good job of not just, like Margaret says here, not just running, but also throwing it to Taysom. He's been a pretty good receiver this year. I know it's not going to get talked about a ton, but even today, he had that one catch for 14 yards where Derek's facing some pressure, throws it to him in the flat, and then Taysom makes things happen after the catch, which you love to see. That type of stuff was not happening a couple weeks ago. Today, all that talk about the meetings that the Saints had, it looked like it worked. For the first time, it looked like it worked, and that definitely encourages me. Easy says, Bears, Vikings, and Falcons don't have great run defenses. I definitely do think the next couple weeks are gettable for the Saints. And I hate saying it because the Saints are a gettable team, but next couple weeks are gettable for them. Peace to Woke says, best Carr game? No doubt about it. Ed says, Granderson's balling out there. Absolutely. Thank God he did not have a serious injury. When he went off the field, I was like, shit, man, we are in trouble. But again, another sack for Granderson. He's been excellent this year. Gavin says, I like Saunders more at fullback than Prentice. We all do, man. And Saunders as that lead blocker, that is dangerous. Justin to Get Me Cash says, Shaheed won me my fantasy matchup today. Love to hear that, man. Good for you, man. That's a great play, by the way. I wouldn't have had the balls to play Shaheed, so kudos to you. Red Joseph says, Taysom Hill, Power Hour, death taxes, and QB power. You guys know the drill, man. It works for this team all the time. They just got to keep it up, keep utilizing the right way. And when you do that, good things are going to happen for the Saints team. There's no doubt about it. Red T says Olave dropped a touchdown. He did. And I know that there's going to be comments about whether or not, like Joey's saying here, Olave's trash. Red T saying, Shaheed would never. But I don't know what it is. It's mental right now, man. Because he was running his routes a little bit harder today. Like, everyone wants to talk about Shaheed's touchdown, and it was a great throw, great catch. Olave ran his route at full speed, and 2 defenders kind of bit towards Olave's route, opened up the backside for Shaheed. And if Olave doesn't do that, maybe that touchdown doesn't happen. So I thought the energy level from him was better today. I think, obviously, though, mentally, something is just not right. And maybe next week's the week that he breaks through. I hope for his case that he is, because we know what he can do. But it's just not happening right now. It's really weird. Brandon says, I think Olave just needs to sit and get out of his rut. He's not a bad player at all. No, he's not bad. He's a good player. He's a really good player. But he's in his head right now. And I hope the end of the Saints game helps him, because they went to him a lot of times with the game on the line, and he did a pretty good job towards them. Alex says, really solid game from Paulson. He was great. Shout out to Paulson Debo. I thought he was excellent. Joey says, I want to see the Derek Carr haters. None. Look, it was fair is fair. I ripped Derek Carr last Thursday. I ripped Derek Carr against the Texans. When he's not good, he's not good. Ripped him against the Bucs. He was good today. He was damn good today. And if anyone's going to go out on any podcast, any Twitter bullshit and start complaining about Carr today, today's not the day to do it. Because if you complain about Carr today, then there's an agenda. You got to give the guy credit when he plays well. And he played really good football today. Olave will be fine. It's been a frustrating season, but he has too much talent for this to continue. He's still young. The fan base has to stop being so quick to give up on players because Twitter says so. Yeah, there's no reason people should be giving up on Olave. You'll be frustrated with Olave. You'll be disappointed. Don't give up, though. He's still a damn good player. Easy says, you're not overreacting. Howden is better than May at every aspect. And Red T says Howden is younger, but May is still better. Yeah, I think that's fair. I actually think Red T, I think that's the best way to put it. May's probably a better player, but I've been liking what I'm seeing from Jordan Howden. I hope they continue it. Alex says, like what I saw from Howden, almost had double-digit tackles and was very active. Easy says, been saying we need to trade May. He's getting cut anyways. Possibly. Red T says, JJ, elite run blocker. Dude, Juwan Johnson was big time today. Big time today in the run blocking. One thing that I really liked about what Mark Sanchez and that crew were talking about was the ability, the looks that they have with Juwan. And they said, Pete Carmichael in the meetings talked about getting Juwan back is also going to help the run game. Like everyone thinks receiving-wise, because Juwan was a receiver and converted to tight end, but he's going to help out the run game, and he did that today, so that was lovely to see. Joshua says a lot of people might get mad at the defense, but this offense is averaging 28 points a game. I'm just glad our offense didn't look like shit because when we were down 17-7, I almost lost it. Yeah, look, I'm not going to get mad at this defense today. I think the Colts are really good in terms of the way they're coached. Look at the Colts. 27 against the Saints defense, 38 against the Browns defense, 23 against the Rams, 22 against the Ravens. They've had some pretty good games this year. They've played the Jaguars tough both times this year. So I think this Colts team is a well-coached football team that runs the football well. That's their identity, and they did that well. And yes, the first half wasn't great for the Saints, but 7 points in the second half, I'm not worried. I'm not going to complain about it. Brandon says Shaheed is a track star playing football. I don't know, man. I understand the speed element to that statement, but he makes some really, really good plays on the football. Easy says Miller needs more touches, more explosive than Williams, but Jamal is very reliable. Yeah, look, I maybe unfairly tweeted today that I think Kendra Miller is better than Jamal Williams, but that was unfair of me and wrong of me. Jamal played really well today, and I hope that is a sign of things to come. Because if Jamal plays well, you know what you're getting from Alvin, you know what you're getting from Taysom. That is how you're going to win football games and have an identity offensively. Because that was the problem with the Saints, right? And why they were getting no consistency is they had no identity. But now they kind of have one, and I'm definitely pleased about that. Sergio says, very impressive win, but penalties need to be cleaned up. They had good balance. Well said. Penalties were a big problem for the Saints at the start of this. There's no doubt about it. And I think they got to get that cleaned up because there's no way you're going to be able to be a contending team. And I know that's a bridge too far for people today, but there's no way you will be a contending team if you are unable to be clean and not get penalized 7-8 times a game. They're the most penalized team coming into today, and that probably won't change after this week's over. Ed says Colts offense, the only team to score 20 every game, so this is not shocking. And Red T says Colts run game is very good. I agree. That's why I'm not going to get too caught up in what they did offensively. This is a good team. Sometimes you are what your record says you are. I think the Colts are going to finish this year like 7-10, but be in every single game. Easy says we got to stop dropping interceptions. Dropped a lot today and dropped a lot versus the Packers. I agree. Howden should have had one. Lattimore should have had one. Got to get those. Edit Kings 21 says we play the Bears next week. If Justin plays, we could have some problems. I agree, but if you're reading the tea leaves, it doesn't seem like he's going to play next week. Now, maybe he does. And even if he does play, guys, there's no excuse to lose to the Bears. I'm sorry. My man John O'Barn says this shit's more than a game. Let's see, John. Let's see if we reverse the curse. Because last time we did a collab, the Saints went on like a 5-game losing streak. This year we did a collab last Wednesday or Thursday? Thursday, I believe. Let's see if now they go on a 5-game winning streak. The schedule's opening up. So let's see if we reverse the curse. Wouldn't that be something? Easy says Taysom in the red zone is always option number 1 for sure. Jerry G in all caps. We won. You damn right, Jerry. Easy says Olave will be fine. It will start to click. I agree. I'm not that concerned. I'm more disappointed than I am concerned, if that makes sense. Sergio says they need to keep changing plays for each game to cause confusion to the opponent. Look, they're going to keep. I think the Saints will be fine in that regard. I still think Pete can be better, but Pete's been the last 6 quarters of football for Pete have been really good, and I'm hoping that is a trend and not an outlier. But we'll see. But I do think they could get better. And look, you can use Olave more. Jawan will get involved in the passing game. A lot of Mike early, not a lot of Mike late. They got to fix the slants, though, because Mike had 2 slants that he should have caught, and Derek Carr's throws were behind him. Those got to be better throws. So there's more that this offense can do that's better, which makes you, if you're going to be pessimistic about consistency, the optimistic side of you should be, man, there was still meat left on the bone, and they scored 38. So that is a good way to look at it. But, again, can you go out there and figure it out against the Bears? And that'll be kind of a good litmus test for this team. Red T says this is the formula. Sit Carr in the red zone, let Taysom run the RPO. I'm fine with that, man. Cordell says, finally, Carr looks like a quarterback that should be driving this offense. First off, love the pun. Second, totally agree. Carr was very good today. That's what the Saints paid for, today's performance. Bayou Boys 504 says, I've been saying Derek Carr is not the problem. I think coming into this week, Derek Carr was a problem. The problem? No. A problem? Yes, if that makes sense. Today, though, he was one of the answers. There's no doubt about that. So I'm going to get into more comments and questions that you guys have. Just before we do that, though, I want to get a quick word from one of our sponsors, DraftKings Sportsbook.
NBA fans, the wait is over. Basketball's back, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is celebrating with an unbeatable offer. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets for throwing down $5 on the NBA. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. You'll start the season with an instant dub. Basketball's more fun when you're in on the action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code BOOT. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly for betting just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code BOOT. The crown is yours.
Again, thank you to DraftKings Sportsbook for being part of the program. So before we get into Saints news, it looks like it actually is semi-confirmed here that Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles, which is obviously terrible. And why does that matter? Well, the Saints play the Vikings in a couple weeks, and obviously don't want that because, again, like I said before, I am a big fan of Kirk Cousins, and I know that is weird because a lot of people don't like Kirk, but I think Kirk's a damn good quarterback. That sucks. He's going to be a free agent. Don't know if that affects his market value. I hope it doesn't for his sake. I hope he gets the bag, but for the Saints' sake, now you're, again, scheduling break yet again. Got to take advantage. There's no excuse. You don't want anyone to get hurt, but it's the NFL, and guys get hurt all the time. So when you have your opportunity to take advantage, you kind of have to. And that's what I'll kind of say about that. Let's continue here with more comments here. Red T says, can we give a shout out to Pete for earning that left tackle spot? He's been surprising. Yeah, look, I think the offensive line is no longer looking god-awful. They're still not great, but they're not looking god-awful. And look, that's going to help Carr's confidence, and as a result, that's going to get better play from the offense as a whole, and we're seeing that. We're absolutely seeing that, and I appreciate that comment. I'm glad you brought that up. Value Boys 504 says Carr was dropping dimes, but that's not new. They finally start running the angle route to Kamara. They got to get the offense going with those kind of plays, and we end up driving the ball easily. I agree. Don't disagree with that. Big Irv says we need more plays for Shaheed. Totally agree with you, man. More Shaheed, the better. I think that New Orleans almost underutilizes some of their playmakers because him and Taysom are guys that when you call their number, they always step up, yet they don't always get their number called, and I wish they did more, but maybe that will change. 3 straight games of 400 yards. Should have had 30 versus the Jags if Foster doesn't drop that pass. Yeah, look, it could be a sign of things to come. We'll see. The yardage hasn't been the problem. The points have been the problem, to your point. But look, last 2 games have been a little bit better in that regard, and Chicago is going to be playing after Sunday night. You don't know if they get beat up a little bit. You don't know if it's a little less prep, whatever it may be, and we'll see. You're going to have to beat Chicago, and we'll obviously do our preview and stuff like that in the future, but we'll see what happens there. Sergio says start using A.T. Perry as a good wide receiver. Well, I mean, we don't necessarily know that yet. You got to do it at the NFL level, and preseason's great and all, but preseason's not the same as the regular season. But I think A.T. could end up being a good player. I just think right now there's no need for the Saints to have to use him. And that's the way I see it. And I still like that they got A.T. Perry. I think that there's a lot of potential to be unwrapped with him, but I still think that this team is not in a position right now where they got to go out there and, utilize another wide receiver. That's not what's going to save them or solve current issues. I think it's a consistency thing. I think it's play calling. I think it's being on the same page. And if all those are great, you don't need A.T. Perry to do things when you got Olave, Michael Thomas, Shaheed, Taysom Hill, Jawan Johnson, Alvin. Like, you don't need all that. But I hope he does get his chance at some point, obviously, because I'd love to see it. But I think that for now, it's not needed. Forgive says, I hope Olave has a breakout next week because it's looking like MT wide receiver 1 and Shaheed 2. It's coming at some point. Don't know when. It's happening at some point. Now, I said he was going to have 100 yards today, and everyone trolled me because I was wrong. And I was wrong. I got to wear it. I was wrong. The funny thing is, if he doesn't drop that touchdown that hit him right in the hands, he actually does go for over 100 because I think it would have been like a 50-plus yard touchdown. But he didn't. And as a result, you end up having a stat line that's pretty pedestrian of 5 catches, 46 yards. But hopefully he has that breakout game soon because he needs it badly. Danny T04 says, AK still that dude, no doubt about it. Gabriel says Shaheed is literally as fast and talented as Jameson Williams. If we're being honest, between Shaheed and Olave, who looks like the early first rounder? Again, it's not the same the way they're doing it. I will say this about Shaheed and Jameson Williams, though. If you ask me right now, Shaheed is a way better player right now than Jameson Williams. And this is coming from someone who loved Jameson Williams coming out of Bama. He was my favorite receiver in that draft. But Jameson's had some issues, some very big issues with drop, awareness. Obviously, the suspension wasn't ideal. Shaheed, he just balls out. He just makes plays. Bayou Boys 504 says he's supposed to over-celebrate. What do you mean? It feels good to get over the hump and be on the same page with the team. I guess this is regards to Carr, because someone said Carr's over-celebrating. Is nauseating, act like you've been there. I disagree, man. Like, football is tough. And, guys like me are going to bitch and complain and critique when things don't go well. And these guys are human, and they've heard for the last 4 to 5 weeks of how bad things have been. Again, they lost 4 out of their last 5 games coming into today. And when things start going well and you start to feel that pressure get lifted off your shoulders, I don't give a shit if they celebrate. They should celebrate. It is a long season. And I think if we want to say act like they've been there before, this Saints team has not been there before. This is a different team from what we're accustomed to seeing. And it must have felt good today for them to win a game where the offense was the one that drove the charge there. Not the defense, not the special teams, the offense. And I'm okay with them celebrating. They got to listen to people like me complain for 7 days a week. When they bowl out like they did today, I think they deserve to have that opportunity to celebrate. No doubt about it. Gabriel says, I started Taysom, Carr, and Alvin in fantasy. I'm currently talking shit in all caps in the league chat, and it feels good, and I deserve it. Yeah, you definitely. If you start all 3 of them, obviously Alvin's a no-brainer. But you're starting Carr and Taysom in fantasy, you deserve to talk shit if you end up getting it right. Ed says, got to be 6-4 before the bye week. No Kirk Cousins. We got to make the Vikings and Bears the next 2 weeks. Yeah, they got to win those 2 games. There's no doubt about it. Vikings could also, to answer Mac's question, they probably will also be without Justin Jefferson. I don't see the point of rushing back Justin Jefferson if there's no Kirk Cousins at the moment. That would be just asinine in my opinion. So we'll see what happens. But I definitely think that for the Saints, those next 2 games, looking at the schedule, obviously, with Chicago and then Minnesota, those are winnable games. And you got to get it done. No excuses. Just Call Me Trey says, all the offense has to do is do what they did today and build off it. Defense tighten up in the trenches and can win 3 in a row if they bring it. Don't disagree with that. Bayou Boy 504 says, Mike dropped 2 first downs. Olave dropped a touchdown. Touchdown pass. DC was on point today. You can tell he's getting more comfortable. He is. The Michael Thomas drops though are actually on Carr than they are Michael Thomas. Olave one is all on Olave. No doubt about it. But Carr's throwing it either behind or too high. And when Mike gets the slant catches, and we could say this because we've been seeing it since 2016, he likes to get him kind of low because the way he's going for it's kind of catch and then go to the ground. Derek's kind of throwing it up, and that's where the first one was. The second one was behind. You could say Mike should catch it, still fine, but the throw's got to be a little bit better. Matthew says, don't want it to go unnoticed after what happened. Jacksonville fostered a handful of crucial blocks to spring big runs. Love to see it. Also love the way the 3 backs were used. Totally agree. I love that comment, by the way. Max says, that Blue Beetle figure is pretty dope. I appreciate it. Yeah, I got Blue Beetle rocking over here. Got some Nintendo dudes and then my favorite Ninja Turtle in the back. So that's kind of the setup we're rolling with. Maybe we'll change it up a little bit. Obviously, to my other side, I got Deadpool. So what's the point of not adding a little bit of life to it? Got a little bit. So I appreciate it, though. Zeke says, what's going on with Olave? He looks so good within the first couple weeks. It's got to be mental right now, man. He didn't look frustrated today, though, which I liked. Like last week and the last couple weeks, you could tell, like him and Carr, the body language is bad. Today was one of those like, damn, like it's in his head. And the guy's had a tough week. The guy literally got arrested on a Monday night. And you want to say it's his fault and reckless driving? That's totally fine because at the end of the day, like there's no one else to blame but yourself when you make a mistake like that. No doubt about it. But what I will say is there's no way that he went through the week he went through and everything's just fine and dandy. Like that's got to be tough. And I hope for his sake that he can get back on track because he's still a damn good player. We absolutely know that. But the last couple weeks haven't been good. Honestly, the last month hasn't been good for him. Gabriel saying, looks like we're both getting in the end zone a lot today. That honestly, Gabriel, that might be the best comment that I've ever gotten on YouTube. That is the funniest shit I've read. Shout out to you, man. That's a genuine laugh, by the way. I get that is good. That is good. Where the hell do you even find that, to be honest? Actually, you don't have to tell me. Matthew says, what are the thoughts on the decision to start Howden over May? Think it's something that lasts or it's temporary? I think it was like kind of temporary because Marcus May wasn't 100%. But I thought Howden was really good today. So we'll see. Do you make it a week, lasted a little bit longer than a week? We'll see. Big Irv says, what's up with Cam? Is it time to look for his replacement? I actually thought Cam was decent today. I have to rewatch and see if my eyes were deceiving me or not. But I thought Cam was okay today. He doesn't have that burst, though, guys. And that contract extension they gave him, he's not looking good. So we'll see. Big Irv says, get the ball in Shaheed's hands more. I agree. Matthew says, one last thing. A lot of people commenting to put Perry over Olave. Guys, we've got to realize he's a 7th-round rookie. He's not going to come in and instantly be a game changer. I agree. Lynn Bowden is a monster blocking. He was opening holes for AK. Yeah, look, Lynn's usually the tell. When he's in, that's a tell that they're running the football, but didn't matter today, apparently. Max says defense led up 27 points and won by 11. Am I dreaming? You are not. Thankfully not. Rory says, can we talk about Granderson? He's become a great player. He has. He is their best edge rusher by a mile. By a mile. So another great game for him, another sack. That extension is looking like a genius move from the Saints because had they waited, he would cost them actually more than he already does. So that's all good stuff for the Saints, man. That is all good stuff for sure. Jake says, statement game from Carr today, no questionable throws. If we could build on this foundation we built, we could be a good team. I don't disagree with that, but they got to fix it up and they got to clean the penalties, though. That's an important thing to add. Gabriel says, Nick Saldiveri looks like such a mistake in the fourth. Imagine Olave, Shaheed, and Josh Downs or Puka. Fair enough, but, Puka's also not knocking Puka. Puka's been great. But Puka Nacua also is in a spot right now where he's got to get a lot of targets out of necessity, and I don't know if he would get that in New Orleans. Now, does the Saldiveri pick look not great right now because he's not being utilized? Sure, but let's give him time. Offensive lineman, especially from smaller schools, it needs a minute, Got a comment here from, Havc 735. Taysom Hill's the key. Jake says, won't let those two plays define Olave today. He gave effort. I agree. Sergio saying, I'm waiting for a Michael Thomas 100-yard touchdown game. Possibly. Max says, Kirkwood was a healthy scratch, right? And hey, it looked like there wasn't a big tell we were rushing. He was a healthy scratch. I'm glad they did. I don't want to say guy's been useless, but Kirkwood has not done anything for the Saints this year. You didn't need him in, and you saw today. Didn't need him in there as well, and I hope that continues. Matthew says, I love how the red zone play calling went. A lot of runs, looks over the middle of the field. Even when they didn't hit the shot to Juwan, it opens up a lot. I agree. It looked like a different team today. It looked like a team playing football in the year 2023, which we love to see because they have not been doing that of late. And obviously, I'm very, very pleased with that. Uber TV says we played very good today, and the offense showed out. Really hope it stays this week. All running backs played amazing, including Taysom. I agree. No doubt about it. So I'm going to get into other comments you guys have as we get closer to an hour mark here, but a quick word from one of our sponsors here, Crystal.
I need to clear something up about New Orleans. While our culinary scene might be on fire, our food has never been about heat. It's always been about flavor. And this is how New Orleans does flavor. Are we clear? Crystal. How New Orleans does flavor.
Once again, thank you to Crystal for being part of the program. And get back into more comments here as we get closer to an hour. Comment from Tony here, 7-1, 4-4. The difference in having good coaching. Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I think at the minimum, the Saints should be a 6-2 team right now. And boy, does that hurt to say because should have had the Packers game. That one's inexcusable. And then you could pick. You want the Jags game? You want the Texans game? Do you want both? I could give you both if you want both. But either way, it was it's kind of disheartening that they're not 6-2 or 7-1 and they're 4-4. But all right, hopefully they turn this thing around. Margaret says MT and a few other players were sick and toughed it out. Yeah, they were. Looked like a lot of guys dealing with a bug going around. Hopefully it doesn't linger for another week and these guys are feeling better. Gabriel says Jordan Howden has looked so good and reliable. Hitting on draft picks in the secondary is what we do, baby. No doubt about that. That is definitely one of their specialties. It's like the way the Steelers draft receivers, Saints are good with secondary guys. Max says for sure Pete Carmichael was creative enough to make his playbook work, but we still got to call the right plays, and Carr and Olave got to get on the same page. Then we ain't rolling through, we trucking. Fair enough. Libby says, I still want to see Graham and A.T. Perry, but today was such a great win. Yeah, and the Jimmy Graham one's more for, like, if they're throwing fade routes, you might as well give him one. But when you're running the offense the way you ran him today, then you don't really need Jimmy in there. Alex says, Alvin to reports postgame, Taysom is the equivalent of the tush push. You know what's coming, and you can't stop it. Been saying, death taxes, QB power. Can't stop that. Ed says, DeMario on one leg playing really well. Yeah, Saints just got to hope they continue to play really good football and get to the bye week with no injuries. So guys like DeMario can get back to 100% because they're not, he's not 100% right now. He looked rough out there during the, which game was the Jaguars game on Thursday night. Looked a lot better today, which obviously you love to see, but hopefully he gets a little bit healthier and we can see more out of him. Max says, agreed on the O-line, been seeing more of a pocket each and every week. Yep. There's no doubt about it. It's getting better. Libby says we saw a lot of good stuff today. Better place for sure. We saw some iffy stuff, but we know this. Hope we can keep it going. Yeah, my big concern is the penalties. I think those are the ones that concern me, Next comment here from Gabriel. Why it took A.T. Perry 8 weeks to be active is effing crazy. I hate how slowly we bring along rookies. Trust your eyes. Like, damn, Kirkwood and Bowden, it took half a season to figure that out. More so Kirkwood. Lind at least is blocking well. Kirkwood has not done much. And honestly, I know Saints fans can't stand him, but it would have actually helped to have a blocking receiver like a Traquan on this team right now. Matthew says, did Indy run the Tampa 2 trying to figure out if we figured out a way to dissect it better or if we just faced a different D? I'll have to go back and look. I kind of forgot who the Colts defensive coordinator is at the moment. I think it's Gus Bradley, but I'd have to go back and check. I really don't remember if it is Gus or not. But I'm pretty sure. Let me see real quick. I think the Colts, they're talking about a lot of cover 3, but I'll go back to check for sure, and I'll see what it was. Max says 34 straight games of holding QBs under 275 yards. Love to hear that. Says, over-celebrate now can build that confidence the offense needs to know what your offense can do and set that benchmark. I think that's fair. I think that's definitely fair. Max says, Gabe, make sure y'all Max protect today. Just had a baby yesterday. Well, congrats to you guys, Mac. That is awesome. Always great to have another Saints fan. I'm assuming another Saints fan. Libby says, love Kamara's tush-push analogy and love seeing him on his game today. The touchdowns. Also on Olave's arrest, I know personally that he should have just gotten a ticket. Cam Jordan is a lifer. Yeah, I know a lot of people talked about that with Olave. Look, it's a stupid mistake. It's a stupid mistake. Usually, though, when that happens, you just like get a ticket and you're on your way. You're like talking about fighting for points on your license. You're not worrying about an arrest. But hopefully, he can shake that off and kind of get back on the right mindset. And we'll see what happens. But I'm obviously pulling for Olave to get back on track. Bayou Boys 504 says Foskey made most of his opportunities today. For sure, no doubt about it. Taysom is our tush push. Put it on a shirt. maybe we'll have to make more Taysom shirts for Boot Crew. Because right now we're rolling with the death taxes and QB power, but we'll see. Maybe we'll roll out more shirts. Got to think about it. Margaret says Cam was better the second half of last year. He was. And look, I thought he was better today, but he still isn't where we're accustomed to seeing. And again, his age, it catches up, but it just stinks because of the extension. But I thought he played better today for sure. Vikings lost Cousins. Hope for a speedy and healthy recovery, but another break for the Saints. Should win that one too. I agree, Jose. Like, look, sucks for Cousins. I feel terrible with Cousins. Saints got to make sure they take advantage of the next 2 games. The schedule has opened up for this team, and it's been that way for a while. There's no more excuses. They got to go out there and do the damn thing, and we'll see if they do it. Gabriel says, am I the only one that thought the commentators for this game were awesome? Great analysis and breakdowns, no favoritism, enthusiastic for big, important plays. Like, that shit was refreshing. I actually thought they do. I know a lot of people don't like Mark Sanchez's commentary, and I think he was with, I don't want to butcher his name, so let me just search it up real quick to get it. I think it was Kevin Kugler. I think that's how you say his last name. But Kugler and Mark Sanchez were really good today. So I appreciate good commentary, and I thought they brought it, and Mark did a really good job with his breakdowns, and obviously he knows the quarterback aspect of things very well, being a former top pick. So I agree. I thought the analysis there was fantastic. And again, what's fantastic is the Saints go out and win the damn game. So as always, guys, I'm going to have a Monday morning show. We'll talk about a couple of different topics. The arrow is pointing up for this Saints team. Obviously, it could point down quickly if they don't win next week, but right now it is pointing up for this team in the regard that they have a good schedule coming up. They're still healthy, and maybe Derek got some confidence from today's win. And if that happens, then who knows? Maybe the Saints team can string together a winning streak, and we can have some optimism and some smiles on our faces moving forward. But that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Straight Up Saints podcast. As always, guys, thank you so much for your comments, your support, your super chats, your love. Greatly appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Enjoy that Saints win. Enjoy your upcoming Victory Monday. We'll be back for another show in less than 24 hours. And until then, guys, I'll talk to you soon. That's going to do it for this edition of the Straight Up Saints podcast, the destination for the Who Dat Nation. Have a good night, everyone.